Okay, I think I am live. All right, I am live. Okay, this is good. So, hello, my name is Tracy Leela. For those who don't know me, I'm an evidential medium and astrologer, and I came here live to talk about this new moon in Taurus. I'm going to talk about the transits, the other transits that are connected with this new moon, and for very important, in my opinion, to be taking a look at it. It adds to the seeding point in the Taurus part of your chart. And I'm also going to be talking about the numerology of number two. I am early. I was supposed to be here at 4 o'clock, and I want nothing more than to curl up on my couch with a blanket and some food, just like Taurus energy wants, just something comfortable, something grounded, something nourishing in the body, and relax. So I decided to come here a bit early. I don't anticipate having too many people on here live with me, but this will be recorded. I do have my candle that I will be lighting in a few moments to signify the um, the intentional seeding that we have for each new moon. I do plan to be here every month to talk about the new moons. Um, I'm going to go a bit slower because I have this headache. My spiritual gifts are expanding again as I'm um progressing to a higher level in my mediumship. And so I just have this headache that's just kind of lingering. So I'm going to slow down, but I'm also going to try to get through this content so I can go back to my go back to some relaxing and some self-care. And that's really what this new moon is about self-care. So we're going to talk about that. Not that I don't want to be here with you guys, but you have to know your own body and be in tune with your own senses. And this is the Taurus energy as well. And so, with that said, I want to also encourage you to think about self-care and what that really means for you. I'm just kind of rambling right now as I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here on my end here to get set up and prepared to start. But I do believe that self-care is individually unique to each person and it looks different to everybody. And for some people, it might be that bubble bath, self-care or treating yourself to something nice, a nice service, a little mani-pedi or something like that, or going for coffee or for lunch with the girlfriends. That might be your idea of self-care. For others, it might just be being in solitude, reading a book, being in your own space. For some people, it might be cleaning. It might be going out in nature and really grounding yourself. Um, it really does look different for everybody. And so I have the chat open here. So if at any time, I don't think I have anybody on here with me yet. No, that's okay. As I said, this will be posted. So this new moon energy is going to stay with us for a few days. And right now we're at the peak. And I'm going to bring up the chart here in a few moments and get started. I have some things to talk about with the astrology, which is like really, really cool. This is a great new moon, and this really is a new moon of self-care being in Taurus. There's just so much that we could talk about in regards to this new moon, but I'm going to limit it to some key points that I think are important for this new moon in regards to the transits, but there is definitely more. So just give me 1 second here. Uh, I'm going to bring up the chart and then I, I actually might light the candle first to get that going. Okay, share. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I don't want to be like have like dead air here. Um, so I'm just going to again just kind of ramble as I get this set up. I should have my glasses on, you know. Okay. And okay, so before I share that, I am gonna light my candle. I did write down my herbs here. I've got my notes here. I'm a writer. I like to write stuff. You can see all my notes here. Oop, my notes here on the back, and then I got my notes on the inside, and then I got my notes, and I got my notes, and I got my notes. Like I literally run out of pens all the time because I write a lot. So, anyways, this is the candle for this new moon that I'm lighting. And if you follow me on social, I always encourage you to have your own candle. Um, it's really powerful. It's symbolic, but it is powerful in the sense of intention. Intention is everything. Our entire world and universe is created based on the creation of intention. And intention does create um, manifestations. Intention is the creation of an idea that is needing to be birthed and created into this world. And so if you are seeding, working with the energy of the new moon, you are intending something to grow, right? We're planting a seed in the earth, into the soil. And this is so significant with this new moon being of Taurus, which is of the earth and of the soil. And we have an opportunity to co-create with this moon energy at the new moon because the new moon is fully dark. I was born on a new moon, so I'm a new moon baby. It's dark because it's intuitive, and um, it's a place of seeding. When you put the seed into the earth, I mentioned this on my last live, it's going into a dark, grounded, earthy place to be able to grow and blossom. And so that's that first seeding point. So this is what we're doing when we light our candle. We have specific herbs. We have specific intentions based on that part of your life, wherever Taurus is for you. So I want to encourage you to pull up your chart and know what part of life Taurus is for you. I work with whole sign houses. And so each house, there's 12 houses. Each house represents a different aspect of your lived experience of your life. And Taurus is just one of those 12 spaces. And it's important to know what that is for you because that way you can seed specifically in that area of your life for this new moon in Taurus. And it makes the co-creation process, that intentional creative process to be birthed and bloom and blossom, that more powerful. And so this is my um, candle. I put a brown candle for the earth, for the soil. I always have a bay leaf for protection, and I put a Dharma wheel symbol on the inside, and I wrap it with a string that represents um, what this candle is burning for. And a new moon is all black. It's all dark. It's like seeing in that dark space, feeling intuitive energy in that dark space. And so there's the black string. The herbs that I've used, I have clove for spiritual. I have my notes here. I'm trying to remember everything. Spiritual vibration and purification. I have rose because Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so Venus is all about love and beauty and balance and harmony. I have mulberry leaf, which is for wisdom um, and for greater awareness. And I have the lotus embryo, which is for protection and for spiritual growth. And there's a lot of you notice the herbs that I'm working with this Taurus new moon is like protection and wisdom and spiritual growth, spiritual vibration and greater awareness. And this is because Taurus is of the senses. Taurus is connected to the five senses. It's connected to the throat, it's connected to the body, it's connected to the earth, it's connected to your value, it's connected to the relationship with self. And so when we understand that we are spiritual beings in human form, which I'm sure you've heard many times over before, um, it it's important to nurture our spiritual side. It's important to understand and tune in to our senses because that is our guidance system. It's not the ego. The ego is a mental process that we need to be human in order to logically and practically process information so we can accomplish what we need to accomplish here in this dense physical world. Our senses are connected to our spirituality and our spiritual self and to our soul self and to our intuition. And this is a new moon in Taurus. So it's like total spiritual energy. But if you're not tuning in and tapping in and learning to understand your senses, to trust your senses, then the ego mind can overpower that. And that's where we go astray. That's where we create resistance. And that's where we struggle when the ego mind is trying to process spiritual content. And so, um, a great intention would be to set as this new moon is to trust more into your senses, trust more into that intuitive guidance system that is naturally built in every single one of us. We all have our own guidance system that is connected to our soul self, our higher self, and we have the ability to connect with it. We do connect every single day. The problem is in our awareness of that. And that's my rant. So there's the candle. I'm just going to leave it there to burn down. Once it gets to the bay leaf, it's really exciting because then it gets all fiery. Got my coffee. Mm, because life is so much better with coffee. Okay, let me share my screen here. Should be coming up. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. So you should see here now on my screen, we've got the transits for this new moon. This new moon, May 16th, is right here where I'm circling. You can see the sun and the moon, and you can see it conjunct Mercury. And Venus, which is over here in Gemini, is the host of this new moon because Venus is the ruler of Taurus. And so, with this new moon being in Taurus, we have to look at the relationship between our consciousness, our unconsciousness, our awareness of our intuitive spiritual self. This is the new moon energy in connection to Venus and Taurus energy. But then we've got Mercury in the mix as well. And Mercury is in what we call a mutual reception with Venus right now. Mercury being in Taurus and Venus being in Gemini. And when we look at Gemini, Mercury rules Gemini, Venus rules Taurus, there is a mutual reception because they're both in each other's signs. So there's, I want to say, an ability to start understanding each other. And I say this because when you have two houses that are side by side, just like Taurus and Gemini, the planets that are in both of those houses, they don't see each other. It's called aversion. There's like a blind spot. But because they are in each other's signs, there's a mutual reception. So there is a starting to understand each other. So Mercury is starting to tap in and tune in to that grounded senses that of self-value, of self-care, your the simplicity of the self-care. Taurus is simplicity, and Venus in Taurus is values. And when we put the mind there, it's with this new moon. It's like we're being asked to be conscious of that intuitive uh, self, the intuitive senses, to awaken to it, to trust it, to listen to it more, and to um, just quietly and in a grounded way just tune into those senses and make conscious sense of it. Right? There's an awareness and an awakening that we're being called upon with this new moon in Taurus. That's what I'm feeling. And with Venus being in Gemini, especially towards the later degrees, in the third decan. What I really love about this too is that the lot of Eros is in a conjunction. You can see this other Venus with a circle is in a conjunction with Venus at the same time. And a lot of Eros is the connected to the moon, but it is our connected to Venus, but it's connected to our relationships. And being in a conjunction with Venus at the same time that Venus is ruling this new moon, and the moon also being exalted in Venus in Taurus. Um, Sorry, I've got this headache, so I'm just fumbling. I feel like I'm fumbling over my words. Let me just slow down. Um, there is, I feel like a greater ability to tap into our conscious awareness of the boundaries that we're setting, the simple values that we are now making of importance, we should be making of importance. And this is really important for seeding, is taking the time to think about what that means for you. The self-care, what does self-care mean for you? Um, Another place to look into the chart, this is just, I'm going a little bit left field right here, right now, but you can also look at your, it's called your IC. And usually it falls into the fourth house. It could fall into the third or the fifth, depending on your chart. But when you look at the IC being in the fourth house of your family and foundation, a lot of times it can give you some great awakenings as to what self-care means for you, because the IC is the innermost self. And there's so much information that you can gain in regards to your self-care and what that looks like. But when we look in Taurus energy right now with this new moon, the Taurus energy is asking you to be conscious of the self-care, but um, in a really quiet way, simple way, grounded way. Um, this is I feel like there's a lot of solitude and a lot of just quiet space with this new moon, especially being in Taurus. And it's not something to be like actively going out there and planting. It's more something to quietly move in towards self and really reassess. And to make sense of what's right for you, and maybe some boundaries that you need to place, um, and maybe some areas that you need to nurture and nourish and grow to blossom. What's working, what's not working, um, what ideas, what communications become conscious. This is a great time to journal. Grab your favorite tea or grab a coffee, sit quietly, uh, and really think about what holds value for you. What brings you harmony and peace and joy within yourself? Uh, I thought about going through the houses just to give a highlight on, what all the areas mean. I'm assuming that people that are watching this could be new to astrology, but then there might be people that already have an idea of the housing system and how it works. But you know what? Let me just run through it quickly, um, and I'm just going to verbally talk about it. So if we're talking about Taurus energy, right? So this is Taurus energy with the new moon conjunct Mercury. Um, I have to bring up Venus because Venus is the host of this new moon, and there is a mutual reception, and it just highlights the importance of the Mercurial Gemini um, thought process and consciousness of the relationship within self for value, right? Again, I mentioned that Venus was at the later degrees of Gemini. This is the last decan, and there's a little bit of clarity that comes with this. There's Gemini is like the dual, right? And the twin, right? So the mind can be all over the place in a good way, and it could be a challenging way as well. Um, but at the later degrees of Gemini, with Venus being in there, there's almost like this new awareness, this new kind of more concrete consciously, mentally, communicatively, um, of what feels right for you. There's less confusion. And also with this new moon being at the later degrees of Taurus, it's like the later degrees of Taurus with the last decan, there's a harvest to look at, right? So there's something conscious that you intuitively need to become more aware of, that is making more sense, that's more grounded, and nurture that, be in that, be still in that. As I said, there's a little bit more to this new moon. It is conjunct uh, some a fixed star, Algol, and it is conjunct Ceres as well, asteroid. And that adds another layer of depth to this new moon, where again, I mean, I'm not going to get into the fixed stars and into the asteroids in this one, but it just adds another layer of self-nurturing with Ceres that needs to be made a priority. I would say make yourself and your value and your sense of peace within, groundedness within, that balance that needs to be created, the harmony that needs to be created within, is a priority. And without nurturing our own selves, then how are we going to be a benefit to anybody else in our lives? The alcohol takes it to a whole other level, but I'm just going to say, I think it's really important to just be conscious. That's why I say journaling is really good at this time. Um, mm, I want to talk about Mars and Chiron as well. They're over here, if you can see my cursor, in a conjunction in Aries, also at the last degree, late, the later degrees, 28 degrees, in a conjunction, but the last decan of Aries. And so this is a very relational decan. And this is where there can be a little bit more structure and a more solid foundation grown at this later degree of Aries with Chiron and Mars. And I mean it's bound by Saturn. And so that's where we get that structure that's kind of coming into form and coming to place. It really does depend on your relationship with Mars, I believe. Mars is a malefic planet, and Chiron is the asteroid of it's a wounded healer, right? So the Chiron is the pain, but also the elixir. And Chiron, with Mars, I feel like Mars could either amplify that pain if you don't have a good relationship with your Mars, depends on where your Mars is in your chart, or it could contribute to the incredible fast acting energy of the elixir that is finally creating this greater awareness of, excuse me, the relationship either within yourself, the relationship with other people, and how what's been happening in the Aries part of your chart for the past while. We've got Mars, Chiron, Saturn, and Neptune, and there was this whole other set of stellium that was in Aries for a while, triggering that fast acting, um, sometimes abruptive energy that can come with that Mars ruled Aries energy. And now Mars coming into conjunction with Chiron, it's almost like, what lessons did you learn around your healing? Have you grown from it? Are you working towards that elixir part of Chiron, or is it still agitated? Do you still need to work on your Mars? Is there some parts of the Aries part of your chart that needs to be addressed and looked at in regards to healing? Usually it's a repeated pattern when we look at Chiron. Um, and so this is connected with this new moon because Venus is in full support of the Mars and Chiron dynamic in a sextile. You can see this green line here, that's a sextile, and that's very supportive energy. And so with Venus being the ruler of this new moon, but yet in a receptive connection with Mercury, mental, of the heart, of the relations, the relationships within self, and also in a supportive energy with Mars and Chiron, again in the relational decan of Aries. And Mars is very relational too. Mars and Venus are like this. And right now they're supporting each other. And so I see this as a new moon that is conscious, that is asking you to be quiet and go inward and really assess your own self mentally, consciously, communicatively, and relationally. And uh, looking at the new awareness and the new solid foundation that is forming or has been in the mix of forming or that newly needs your planting of the seeds to begin forming. It looks different for all of us as we're all on our own individualized paths of growth. And so I'm just going to look here. I don't have anything in the chats, but I'm just going to look here at my live and see if I'm still good. Yeah, it says good. So, excuse me. I have this cough that just came on. Okay, let me come back here. So I think that's all I really wanted to say about the astrology of this new moon. I did mention I would go through the houses and just talk about it quickly for those of you who may be fairly new to the astrology and the housing system and like what does that mean when I say the Taurus part of your chart or the Aries part of your chart. The zodiac, there's 12 zodiacs, as we all know. Um, But when we really look at the natal chart, with 12 houses, and again, I use whole sign houses, each house represents a different aspect of your life, and each house is housed by a zodiac sign. And so, although you may have planets in like different houses, we really are a little bit of every single zodiac within our own selves. We experience every single part of the zodiac. Um, and where your planets are where you're going to really feel and understand that zodiac sign, or maybe multiple, depends on your chart. But when we look at the transits, as the transits go by, we're looking at the new moon and Mercury in Taurus. We're looking at Mars and Chiron in Aries, and we're looking at Venus and Gemini. These are three different aspects of our life. And it's different for all of us depending on your rising sign, but they all contribute together, right? It's an unfolding story. So uh, I'm going to just go through briefly for you the general topics. I'm going to go really fast here because I want to move on because this headache is just like aching me in my head, and I need to take my time for self-care through this new moon. Um, but the first house is all about self. It's all about you, your physical body, your presence here, your physical body here, your physical experience here. Um, how it's all about you. There's nobody else in regards to the first house. This is you and solely you. And if you have planets in your first house, it just makes you even more dynamic and your experience of yourself. It's your first house is where your ascendant is, and that's how people see you initially when they meet you. No, the number two, the second house is the house of, they say finances, possessions, and value. And I want to highlight value a little bit more, value in terms of possessions and how you make your money. But it's also value of your self-value and how you are self-sufficient in your life experience, again connected to how you make your money and then what you do with that money in regards to possessions and the value you place on it, but it's also the value that you place within your own self, your self-value. And that's very, very important to understand with the second house. Yeah, it's money and value and possessions, but it's more so, I find from my experience, um, tied to your own individual self-value of how you feel about yourself within. And that's usually emotionally, mentally. Um, the third house is the house of communication. It's your local community. It's your neighbors, your siblings, your friends within your community, how you communicate with each other. It's also the house that would contain like your dreams and stuff like that. So the fourth house is your family and foundation. It is your ancestry is in there. Wounds from childhood is contained within the fourth house. Your innermost self, remember your IC, that's in your fourth house. Real estate, again, it's that the home, right? And property. is within the fourth house. The fifth house is the house of creation, of children. It's a joy of pleasure, anything that you enjoy to do and that brings you joy and brings you excitement. It's the fifth house is the house of the creation, meaning it's the house that things are birthed through that house, right? So that's not only children. So they say sex also can be contained within the fifth house because it takes sex in order to have a child, which is the creation that is birthed out into the world. But that creation is also things that are birthed within you that you put out to the world, meaning a piece of art or meaning food and culinary, or a piece of music, or poetry, any type of writing, anything that is the ideas that are within you, the desires and the passions that you're just would bring you so much joy that you put out and you create and manifest within this physical world out to the world. That's fifth house. Sixth house is your house of work. So your work, your employees, your employers, your day-to-day dealings, your day-to-day habits, and your physical self. So illness and accidents and stuff will fall into the sixth house. It's also the house of small pets. I think I need to slow down. Um, Number seven is the house of partnerships, one-on-one interdependent relationships. The house of mm, marriage, business partners, but it's also the house of open enemies. And so the seventh house is like a one-on-one relationship with another person, interpersonal relationships. And that can be in form of a marriage, where you're forming that partnership. It could be in the form of a business partnership with you and one other person where you're forming a relationship with that one person. It could be relationship with you and your child, you and your mother, you and your sister, you and your brother. It doesn't really matter. Just you and one other person. And it's also the house of open enemies. So you could, especially with all the transits that we've had in Aries. Aries falls in my seventh house, and I definitely have been experiencing, and it's starting to quiet down now, but that open enemy with one other person, and it is irritating. But there's so much focus, I feel like, on the seventh house of romance and relationships and marriage and love. But please keep in mind that it is also open enemies. The eighth house is the house of soul contracts, inheritance, death in the form of death and rebirth. So it's like a metaphysical, it is a dark house, it is a deep house, it is an occult house. It is the house of like it because it goes deep, because it goes dark, because it goes intimate, because there's soul contracts, there's an intimacy. So sex also falls into that because sex is intimate. And it's can be a very difficult and challenging house. It's like seeing in the dark, because it's a dark house and it's deep and it goes, they say it's an idle house, like it's an inactive house. I feel like it is active, but just more in a deeper, darker sense. And I don't know, it's almost like a new moon energy where it's like it's very intuitive, it's very dark. You're seeing in the dark. Um, I have a stellium with myself. My past life comes from the eighth house, so it's I'm very connected to this house. And soul contracts with other individuals is also a part to play. This is a house of debt, of taxes. If you owe money, your resources with other people, resources you gain when people pass on an inheritance, all eighth house. Ninth house is in regards to your belief systems. It's in regards to your philosophy, higher knowledge, higher education. It's connected to the dogma of spirituality and religion, what you've been indoctrinated into this lifetime, of spirituality and religion. Um, some say it's closer to connection to God. I guess in that sense of the indoctrination with the religion, I would place that closer to 12th house, 8th house, um, which we'll get to the 12th house. But it is the house, I think, that is the most important to really realize. I mean, it's a foreign travel and distance, it's long distance, but of the belief systems. Because our belief systems are formed here from the indoctrination. And it's our individualized path, an evolutionary path where we learn and we grow and we evolve and our philosophies change. And this is ninth house. As our philosophies change, then our belief systems change and they grow and they flourish because we're getting higher education, we're getting higher knowledge. And there's something about stage work. I think because it's so high up in the chart, where there's a lot of visibility in the ninth house, but there's ninth house people, they like to be on stage. There's something that's like to be seen and like with justice and the legal matters. And there's a real sense of seeing at the ninth house. The 10th house is your house of career. It's the house of your public reputation and how other people see you publicly in your career. Um, your MC falls into, so your MC is your midhaven, and that is really like a sensitive point when transits are transiting your midheaven. This is where your career could take a new direction or just really flourish and open, or the changes within your social status and how you're seen in regards to your career is 10th house. 11th house is of hopes and aspirations in regards to your groups and your friends and your interaction in groups and friends and alliances in the 11th house. So again, another house of visibility and a really active house of participating with other people. And then the 12th house is the house of um, it is the house of hidden enemies, as opposed to the seventh houses, which is open enemies. It's the house of hidden enemies. It's the house of suffering. It is a house of self-undoing, meaning healing. It's a house of addiction. So you'll fall really hard here if you're not learning the lessons. You can face incredible, challenging life experiences here in the 12th house that force you to hopefully heal so you can rise above and be enlightened and then be of service to other people. I'm a 12th house stellium, so I know this house very well. I live with this energy every single day, and it's excruciatingly hard, and people don't understand unless you actually have natal planets here. You'll experience the 12th house through transits. Depends on the planet. If it's a fast moving, it'll be a short period of time. If it's a slower moving planet, an outer planet, you'll experience the 12th house for a longer period of time. But the key with the 12th house is healing. The key is to be consciously aware. The 12th house is connected to the collective unconscious in this Pisces, Neptunian overflow of soulful spiritual energy. It's a house of faith. It's a house of fate. Um, and it's a house of institutions, jails, um, mental institutions, hospitals. Yeah, so that's the 12th house. So these are the houses. So I encourage you to take a look at your chart. We have it going. Take a look at your chart and see what house Taurus falls in for you. So when you're planting your seeds with this new moon, you're really planting it with the right intentions and the right seeding for that part of life for you. What part of life is that for you? Check your chart. To check your chart, you can go to soul2soul.ca/blog. Just scroll down a bit and you can access your chart there. It will come up in equal house systems. Again, I do use whole sign house systems, or you can go to astro.com or astroseek.com and get it for free. Um, Okay, so I'm gonna actually close this down. I'm gonna end off by talking about the numerology of number two, uh, because numbers are incredibly important, and the numerology of number two is very fitting with the Taurus energy, and it just gives a little bit more of inspiration. Okay, so I'm back, and my candle is fully burning. I got some fire going on here as we're grounding with Taurus. Okay. So, numerology of number two. Number two is a highly spiritual number. It's a spiritual feeling number. And when we look at numerology, there is also a numerology birth chart, and it's based on your birth date, and it's like a tic-tac-toe board. And when we look at the numerology chart, the middle plane is the soul plane, and number two is the very first number on the numerology soul plane. And so you can just hear already and see that number two is a very spiritual number, and it's connected to our intuition. And this is very fitting for this new moon, because the new moon is intuition. It's the darkest of the moon. You can't see it in the sky, a new moon, because it's fully black. And being in Taurus, and Taurus being of the senses, your senses are connected to your intuition. We have five senses. We have five main spiritual senses that are connected with our physical senses. And when we are in that Taurus energy, we have an ability to tap in and tune into that. And so the numerology of number two really corresponds to that Taurus energy, and the new moon energy also being of intuition and our senses. And so number two also represents duality, right? Because it's two, there's two. And so in the duality, number one, us being human, and then number two is our gateway to our sensitivities, our gateway to those senses, those spiritual senses, our gateway to our intuition. Um, so number two is very powerful. And next thing you know, you're going to be seeing twos everywhere with the synchronicity. And just know when you see that, tune in. Tune in and tap into what you're feeling in that moment. Meditation and breath work, I think, is very appropriate, and I would say really key and important with this new moon energy in Taurus. And just really taking the time to be aware of what you sense and what you feel over the next few days. Um, Trusting in the soft nudges that you receive, your spirit guides, your spirit helpers, they are with you. Like, they're with you so close. Um, and although we all have our own personal levels of intuition, we all have our own, um, how do I want to say this? We all have our own way of tuning in and tapping into our intuition. No two people are the same with intuition. I have my gifts, I have my ways of connecting, I have my own strengths with my intuition, and I have areas that I'm not so strong with my intuition, and it's different for all of us. And so it's important to just simply, it's like you want to just move inward where you're ignoring the outside noise and using that Taurus number two energy with co-creating with the moon energy to pay attention to any feelings that you might have, any sensations that you might have, any ideas or thoughts that just randomly pop into your head. Pay attention to the repeated thoughts and ideas that pop into your head. If something keeps coming back, that is your guides, that is your soul self trying to get to you. Pay attention to any visions that you might have, or any sense that you might smell, or any taste that you might all of a sudden feel within your mouth. This is Taurus. Taurus is of the senses, right? And Taurus is of food, and of the ground, and of the earth, and of agriculture. And what's that nourishing, and how do we nourish ourselves with food and like great beverages? And there's a taste and there's a smell with it. There's a natural grounding and earthiness to it. There's a simplicity, there's a joy in it, there's a harmony, there's a balance. This is Venus. There's a love, there's a peace, there's a blossoming, there's a growth. And when we take the time to slow down, right? Taurus is slow energy. There's no rush. Then we can trust our senses. We can tune into the number two. We can tune into Taurus energy, tune into that intuition, and just really um, learn to trust what we're sensing. And that is um, your gateway to your senses. That is the spiritual part of you. And that is you stepping aside from the ego part of you, the human self, and tuning into your spiritual self and understanding that there's a difference. We need them both, but we need them both in harmony. And when we talk about our senses, I'm going to end on this note. When we talk about our senses and our connection to our soul self and the guidance, our intuitive guidance, um, it's very soft. It's very loving and gentle and nudging, and um, it's quiet. And this is where we can second guess it so many times. This is where we can feel something and be like, oh, I don't know. You know what? Let me just do what I was going to do anyways. And the ego mind says, go do this because the ego is loud. The ego will second guess and question everything that your soul self and your higher self and your guides are trying to intuitively give you as guidance, your intuition. Um, your ego self will say, no, you're crazy. Your ego self will say, are you sure? I don't know about that. Um, and this is where we really need to trust. And so use this new moon time. Again, I feel like I've just been repeating myself. I hope not, but maybe I need to get it to sink into people. Slow down, tune in, tap in. Take some time for your self-care of whatever that looks like for you. You do it. Who cares what anybody else thinks? This is about you. This new moon is about you. It's about your own self-value, your own self-love, your own relationship with self. This new moon is not about your relationship with other people. This new moon is your relationship with you, with self. And how are you going to do that? How are you going to nurture yourself? What boundaries do you need to put up in order to take the time to nurture you, to tune in, to tap in, and journal? Journal, take some time to meditate, focus on your breath, really ground yourself. And I wish you a happy new moon. Till next time.